Well, today, Republican candidate Donald Trump is doubling down on his immigration plan. This morning, he tweeted, "We as a country either have borders or we don't. If we don't have borders, we don't have a country."
This comes one day after he introduced a controversial plan to get rid of illegal immigrants called the deportation force. He likened it to a program Dwight Eisenhower implemented during his presidency. But some critics say Trump's plan is too cruel. The billionaire defended his proposal.
Bracero program allowed Mexicans to come in here during World War II to work in our defense industries and in our agriculture because we had a labor shortage. And then what happened was that a lot of people poured across the border, and the Eisenhower administration said, look, you're corrupting the Bracero agreement we have, so we're going to haul you back. But believe me when I tell you, Mr. Trump, that was brutal what they did to those people to kick them back. I mean, the stuff they did was really brutal. It could never happen today.
I've heard it both ways. I've heard good reports. I've heard bad reports. We would do it in a very humane way.
Gabriel Debenedetti from Politico is here with us from Washington. Gabriel, we just heard Trump talk about what he calls a deportation force. Ultimately, is this the kind of rhetoric going to hurt the Republican Party?
Well, it certainly could. And, you know, they have come around to that reality. But for the time being, this is the kind of rhetoric that's taking over as long as Trump is in the lead or towards the front of the pack. You know, he is really driving the discussion with talk of this deportation force. And other people, you know, Ben Carson and some others are also following along and, you know, following this immigration talk.
You can't help but to think of Mitt Romney in 2012 and the self-deportation rhetoric. You know, these are hardline stances. Do you think these candidates feel that this sort of position is necessary in order to win the nomination? Even say a Marco Rubio, who was part of the Group of 8.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that to win the Republican primary, they're definitely tacking to the right on immigration because the people that vote in these primaries, particularly in the early states like Iowa and in some of the March voting states, you know, are pretty hard line on immigration. That said, the party did get together after it lost in 2012 and said, we really need to change or look seriously at how we're talking about immigration. Now, that obviously hasn't happened. And so there are a lot of Republicans that are very worried that, you know, going so far right during the primary could seriously hurt them when it gets to the general election.
Gabriel, polls have shown that the Hispanic support for the GOP has dropped off sharply. Can the GOP, can they win without the Hispanic vote?
It's extremely difficult to win without the Hispanic vote, particularly as the Hispanic vote only grows and the population that is the white vote, you know, shrinks, which is the general Republican vote these days. So it's a serious challenge for them, and it's one that they hope they still have time to reverse before 2016 voting actually starts next November. But, you know, we'll see.
So what do they have to do? How do they win them back?
It's a serious question that I don't think they have a good answer to. One thing that a lot of Republicans who really are looking at this are saying is just don't let the immigration talk be front and center like this. You know, when you have Trump driving the conversation, it really turns off a lot of Hispanic voters who say, well, if this is how you're going to talk about, you know, people that are our family members, then, you know, it's sort of a non-starter. So for one thing, don't let immigration be driving the conversation. For another, maybe they need to look at having a different way of talking about it in the first place.
Let's turn to the Democratic side now. And a CBS News New York Times poll out today shows that Clinton has a near 20-point lead over Bernie Sanders with the next debate on Saturday. You know, how seriously does he need to take this situation? Looking at the numbers, it's not looking that great.
No, and the reality is that he really needs to make sure that things stay close in Iowa, the first voting state, which is where the debate will be. So he's going to come out not necessarily swinging because he definitely doesn't like to do any negative campaigning or anything like that, but he has to make the case to voters that he's still viable and that this is still a race, or else who knows what it's going to look like because Hillary Clinton will just be on an upward trajectory.
And what about the fact that he is actually leading Clinton when it comes to 18 to 45-year-olds? Is there some opportunity there for him?
Yes, absolutely. He has in this new poll a 46-40 lead over Hillary Clinton in the younger group. So there is some opportunity for him to have some growth among this group that can really be mobilized as President Obama showed in 2008. So if he can get these people energized and he can get these people to actually vote, which is the big challenge, there's still a serious opportunity for Sanders, particularly in some place like Iowa or in New Hampshire.
All right, Gabriel Debenedetti from Politico, thank you so much.
Thank you.